Have you ever really truly stopped to think about, well, thinking? To ask yourself the most basic question of all, how do you actually know what you think you know? It sounds simple, but that one question is the heart of epistemology, and that's what we're diving into today. So here's the game plan. We're going to start with the absolute basics, the building blocks of knowledge. Then we'll look at the biggest obstacle we all face, our own biases. After that, we'll zoom out to see how facts fit into bigger frameworks, why thinking together is so powerful, and finally, what all of this means for us right here, right now. All right, first up, let's get into the mental toolkit we all use every single day to make sense of the world around us. Most of the time, you don't even know you're doing it. I mean, think about it. Our journey to understanding the world starts way before we can even speak. It all begins with pure, messy, hands-on experimentation. A baby's world is basically a giant laboratory where every single action is an experiment. It's this beautiful, simple three-step dance. You experiment, you observe what happens, and then you induce a rule from it. You see enough things fall, and you start to form a general idea. Hey, stuff falls down. You're building this mental map of reality, one observation at a time. It's not about certainty, it's about probability. You've seen the toy drop 100 times, so you've got a pretty darn good idea what'll happen next. So that process, that's induction. It's bottom-up thinking. You see lots of specific examples, like falling apples, and you build a general rule, like gravity. But then there's its partner, deduction. That's top-down. It takes a general rule you already have and applies it to a new specific case. So all things fall, therefore, this specific apple will fall when I let go. Okay, but wait a minute. Where did these ideas and hypotheses come from in the first place? That's the magic of abduction. It's that creative leap, our brain's best guess. Imagine you walk into a room, you see wet footprints on the floor, and you hear someone closing an umbrella. You don't know it's raining, but it's the most plausible explanation, right? That's abduction. It's the spark that gives induction and deduction something to work with. So we've got these incredible tools for thinking, but what's the single biggest thing that gets in our way? It's not a lack of information. Nope. It's something much closer to home, the enemy within our own minds. And this is what makes bias so dangerous. It's sneaky. It doesn't feel like you're looking at the world through a warped lens. It just feels like you're seeing things clearly, like what you believe is, well, just obvious. That feeling of certainty is a trap, and it makes bias incredibly hard to spot in ourselves. Confirmation bias is the perfect example of this. Our brains are hardwired to look for evidence that proves we're right. It's just easier, and frankly, it feels good. And today, modern algorithms are like gasoline on that fire, feeding us content that reinforces what we already think and creating these filter bubbles. So you have to ask yourself, next time you're scrolling, are you actually learning something new? Or are you just getting better at confirming what you already believe? Okay, let's zoom out a bit. We've been talking about individual thoughts, but now let's look at the whole architecture of knowledge. It turns out, knowing isn't just about collecting a pile of facts. It's about understanding the system that gives those facts meaning. This quote really gets to the heart of it. There's this big idea called structuralism, and it says that things don't really have meaning in isolation. Their meaning comes from where they fit within a larger structure, from the web of relationships connecting everything. The best way to get this is to think about a chess piece. A pawn is just a little piece of carved wood, right? By itself, it's meaningless. Its power, its ability to move one way and capture another, that power doesn't live inside the wood. It only exists because of the rules of chess and its relationship to the queen, the king, the board, all of it. If you change the rules of the game, you completely change what the pawn is. So, if meaning comes from relationships and our own individual perspective is riddled with biases and blind spots, well, the conclusion is kind of obvious, isn't it? The only way we can really get closer to the truth is by putting our heads together. We all come to a problem with different strengths. Some of us are analytical thinkers. Others run on intuition. Some focus on the hard data. Others see the bigger patterns. The thing is, nobody has it all. A really complex problem is like a locked door, and each of these cognitive modes is a different key. The more diverse the team, the more keys you have to try. My blind spot might be exactly where you see things perfectly clearly. Now, this whole collaborative process gets its most hardcore expression in the scientific method, which is built on one absolutely crucial idea: falsifiability. It just means that for an idea to be scientific, there has to be some way, at least in theory, to prove it's wrong. If there's no experiment or observation that could ever disprove your claim, you're not talking about science anymore. You're talking about a belief. It's what makes science the ultimate group project for figuring out what's real. And that's the bottom line. Subjecting our ideas to challenge from others isn't a sign of weakness. It's our greatest strength. Human progress isn't about individuals being right all the time. It's about building a system that's incredibly good at finding out where we're wrong, together. All right, for our last section, let's pull all these big ideas into our world right now. How do we actually use these timeless principles when we're drowning in information 24/7? This, right here, is the challenge of our time. On one hand, you have the pure information, the signal. On the other, you have the slick, engaging packaging designed to grab your attention, the medium. We have more access to the raw signal than any humans in history. But in today's attention economy, that signal is in a constant battle with the medium. Everyone, from journalists to YouTubers to us sharing a post, we all have to navigate this tension. How do you make the truth compelling without twisting it? How do you make the signal shine through all the noise? And that really brings us here. Just having access to a fire hose of facts isn't power. In a world of endless noise, the real superpower is the ability to organize that information, to see the patterns, to understand the relationships, and to build a coherent framework that actually makes sense. So the ultimate question isn't just, what do you know? It's, how have you organized what you know? How will you separate the signal from the noise?